So, welcome to the Sober Sesh podcast with Emily and Katie. Before we start, we are not affiliated with or endorsed by Alcoholics Anonymous. Primary purpose of this podcast is to spread awareness of addiction and recovery. We will be discussing the 12-step program and AA meetings as well. Trigger warning, we will be discussing alcohol and substance abuse in this podcast.
And we will swear occasionally. Disclaimer. Yes.
Birth of the podcast.
Yes.
We're finally here. We're finally doing it.
We're finally doing it. We spoke about it, 3 months ago?
It was last year, wasn't it? We literally went for lunch in Maidstone in a cute little French cafe.
Yes.
And we was talking about how things were like, how it was hard and how dark things were for us and what our drinking and using used to be like. And then with all of the stories that we were telling, we was literally like, we could write a book or do a podcast.
Literally.
And I didn't really think like we was going to do a podcast. I kind of just, it was a throwaway sort of comment. And you was like, no, genuinely,
let's do it.
We could do a podcast.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Literally. I can't believe it. We tried to set up in Emily's living room, failed miserably. But then God is good and introduced me to a lovely guy called Matt Jeffrey. And we are using his podcast space now. Can't believe we're actually sat here with a logo that we were literally just planning like a few months ago. So yeah, I'm really excited to like start this and spread awareness. That's like the main thing. And we don't see a lot of people our age online in their 20s and 30 now, who got sober. I'm 6 months in recovery. You are?
I'll be 19 months on Thursday.
I'll be 6 months, on the 27th of this month.
Your sober date's 27th, mine's 14th, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
So.
And Emily is a fully recovered alcoholic doing all the 12 steps of the 12-step program.
Yes, and I now sponsor Katie.
Yes, I'm on step 11.
Yeah, you're nearly done.
Nearly fully recovered. Through. Nearly there.
And we are allowed to say recovered, you know.
Yeah.
Alcoholism isn't something that anyone is ever cured from. There's no cure for it, but there is a solution. The solution being, for us, this is what's worked for us. This might not necessarily be what other people choose on how to, get well and get recovered, but going to AA meetings and doing the 12-step program is how I got clean and sober.
Literally. And then you took me under your wing. Yes. And now I'm in the midst of the recovery, but nearly there.
Yes.
Nearly seeing the nice white light, whatever it is. The spiritual awakening. That's what they call it at the end.
And it's a promise.
Yeah.
You will have a spiritual awakening.
Yes, I'm excited. Yeah. So do you want to maybe probably go into your story of how you started? Obviously, we feel like we're in sobriety now. Life is good. But life wasn't like that. It was pretty shit, actually.
Yeah, it was not good.
But what me and Emily share really good as well, we have a very similar backstory of how we got here. So yeah, why don't you share yours for a bit first?
Yeah, so I'd say for me, things started to kick off with my drinking and using when I was like... It was really in the middle of COVID. I'd say COVID was like the kickstarter for me because I was at home on my own. I had all the time in the world to take drugs and drink loads of alcohol because I didn't have to get up for work. I was being paid furlough, so I didn't have to worry about getting up for work. And this was before I had my son, so I was all I had to worry about. So by being at home all day, my partner was out working. It was boredom. It was loneliness. It was just sheer nothing else to do. And, there's that thing, isn't there, in AA where we say it's halt. So hungry, angry, lonely or tired. And I was all of those things.
All at once.
So during COVID, I'd say was the worst for me because alcohol was so readily available because the corner shops were still open. The supermarkets might have been a bit difficult with the queuing up and mask wearing and whatnot, but the little corner shops were always open.
Yeah.
So off I'd go down to the corner shop and I'd be like, right, what are we going to drink today? And I kid you not, it would be 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning sometimes, and I was ready to get the party started, and I never wanted it to end. You know, by the time that my partner would come home from work, I would be at a point where I'm like, right, now it's evening, now it's acceptable, so I'm going to get him on board as well, and let's crack on. I didn't care that he had to get up for work the next day. That's how selfish I was, you know. So yeah, COVID was a big problem for me. Then when I became a mother, and I had a son, it was the most amazing yet difficult thing in the world. The transition from being Emily to being a mum was incredibly difficult. You know, I've got to now care for this tiny human that needs me to be there all the time, and I need to mentally be present, physically be present, and I knew that I wasn't capable of doing that because I was drinking and I was using. And it was a really dark time because I didn't think that I had a problem, because this whole thing surrounding mums needing wine, you know, mums need wine to get through the day, and I started to live by that, and I would see other mums doing it as well, and I thought, well, that's fully acceptable. Normal. I can just drink my way through the hard times of being a mum, instead of thinking, actually, what I need to do is be present for my son, and I can't do that if I'm intoxicated or if I'm hungover, or on a massive come down, because I would do it all at once. It was like drugs and drink went hand in hand for me. I never really bothered doing one without the other. I needed it all together because I needed to reach that high. And my normal daily life with being a new mum was so difficult that I needed to continue to reach that high. So if it meant that I needed to put the washing on or do the hoovering or clean his bottles or something like that, I couldn't do it sober. I needed something in me to get me going to do it, because I just was completely unmotivated and exhausted. But looking back now, that obviously was not the way to go, because I was so poorly mentally and physically drained. And yeah, so how I knew that I had a problem was when my son, me and my son's dad separated, and I was living on my own with Cruz. I then, when he would go to his dad's every other weekend, that was my excuse then, when I didn't have Cruz, to party and, you know, take as many drugs as I could and get as wasted as I could, because that was how I dealt with all of the crap that was going on in my life.
And that was your way of having fun.
Yeah. And that's how I knew how to have fun and to enjoy myself. I had no idea that you could do things sober and still have a good time.
What was that? No way.
Who does that? So, yeah, it was like, okay, let's go up to London, or let's get the girls together and let's go out and get really drunk. And by the time it got to the Sunday evening when Cruz would be dropped home to me, I was like, wow, I feel rough. How am I going to look after him? You know? So I knew something had to change because of how awful I felt and how I had to be so like manipulative with how I'd even get the money, because I wasn't working, you know. So how was I going to fund the drinking and the going out and the drugs? Because it's not cheap. It's not cheap.
Nope. I don't know how I found the money sometimes for it.
Honestly. So yeah, that was how I came to realise that, you know, I wanted to stop. But I was at a point where I didn't have a choice, where whether I was going to drink or use, I was just drinking and using. I didn't have that choice anymore. It was taken away from me. I was in the depths of the darkest part of addiction, where I'd lost the choice. I was just doing it. And I remember I'd had a really long sesh. Bearing in mind, I used to just do this on my own as the weekends went on. I didn't even go out anymore because I used to get in such a mess. I thought, well, if I don't go out, I can just get in a mess at home and then no one will care. No one will see that.
That's when they say addiction leads you to loneliness. Absolutely. Because you don't want anyone else to deal with it. You'd rather just be a mess on your own.
Literally. Yeah. So at home on my own, and the next day I woke up and I felt dreadful. And I knew that Cruz would be coming home that evening, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I want to stop, but I don't know how to stop. I've tried so many times to do it on my own, and I just don't know where to go from here. So I remember I walked along the beach with my mum because I was so upset. I was like, Mum, what am I going to do? Like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to feel like this anymore. And when she said the words to me, it's okay, we can get you help. I was like, wow, I'm an alcoholic and an addict. I've got a problem. I need help. And it really wasn't something I could do on my own. So I came into the AA rooms and I started to listen to all of the similarities between everyone, because it's really easy to sit and judge and be like, well, I haven't done that yet, like what someone else might share. I'd be like, well, I'm not that bad, or I haven't done that.
Well, I'm not as old as them.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was like the youngest person in the room and I felt like I didn't belong at all. So this is why we're making this podcast, is because if I didn't stick around in that room, I'd still be convinced that I'm not an alcoholic and I'm not an addict. But because I went in the room and I stuck around long enough, and there's been other young people that have come into the rooms and stuck around, because we have this stigma, don't we, around stigma and a stereotype around addiction, with it being, you know, men, older men, homeless men, like
on the park bench.
We don't ever think it could be young girls. So it was like a massive shock to us to even find out ourselves that we suffer with an illness of addiction and alcoholism. So came into the rooms, I got clean and sober, and I started to work the 12-step program. And when I say it has changed my life for the better, it really has. I've come into my faith. I'm now a born again Christian. So my whole life is
baptised last year.
Yes, I was baptised last year. And my whole life has just done a 360 completely. 360, 180, whatever you want to call it. My life today is full of joy. I am happy and I can live a normal life without the obsession, my mind constantly about being, where's my next drink going to come from? Where's the next drug going to come from?
Yeah, because it's exhausting.
It is
exhausting. Can't believe how many years we both did it.
I know.
Because it's so exhausting.
So exhausting.
Literally.
So tell us a little bit about your story.
Yes.
How you came to...
So it's very similar to Emily's basically. And I'm like... With Emily, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here today. I literally say that every single time. I couldn't imagine what it was like for Emily to walk into the rooms, and she was the youngest one in the room. Because when I first walked into my room, my first meeting, I was withdrawing so much. And if people don't realise what withdrawing is, if you drink and take a lot of substances, you're going to get very sick if you come off of it. And I was like off a 10-day bender, and my body was I felt like I was dying. So I walked into my meeting, I thought, oh my God, I'm the youngest person in the room. I'm so embarrassed.
Scary.
Literally, and you hadn't showed up in the room yet. And I remember everyone was so lovely and I felt so welcome, but I was just thinking, what am I doing here? But then literally Emily walks in a couple of minutes later, and not only is she in the meeting, she's holding it. And I was like, oh my God, like this is so good. And then she was sharing about her story, and I was like, wow, that is the same as me. And like she said, it's so hard for us at a young age to insinuate addiction or just having fun. And this is one of the main reasons why we're putting this podcast out there, because I recently just put a few TikToks up online and they just blew up. I got thousands of views, so many comments why is no one talking about this? And
sober raving.
Literally sober raving. If you told me 6 months ago I was going to a rave and nothing, I would have been like, fuck off. No, I'm not. I was all about the sesh. That's why we've called this podcast the Sober Sesh, because we were sesh heads. We were dirty little sesh heads.
We were
literally. So insinuating sober and sesh in two words, one word, a play on words, whatever it's called, it's insane. But my story started very similar to Emily's. Lockdown was probably my lowest when I did hit one of my first rock bottoms. We were saying this before the podcast, me trying to create my story of when I actually realised I was an alcoholic. There was multiple times in my story where I hit rock bottom so many times in my early 20s, in my late 20s. But then it all led me to the recovery at the right point, because that was meant to happen. But my alcohol use was really bad ever since a young age. I was 13 when I had my first drink. And as soon as that alcohol hit my body, it was like a potion to me. I was a really nervous child. I got picked on a lot at school, and I just was always had anxiety. So as soon as I had an alcoholic drink, all them fears and all that, and then all them fears and all them emotions will go away, and then all this confidence will come out. Well, at least I thought it did. And then as I got older, I've travelled quite a lot. So I first went to Australia for a gap year. I was drinking excessively then, but I was on a holiday. Like, everyone was doing it. Acceptable. You're going to drink beers on the beach at 10 a.m. Like, it's normal. So I think I didn't ever witness it there. But obviously, you're still, I think every alcoholic or addict is always born with that thing in their head. Like, once they pick up, they can't put down. And I always had that obsession. Like, as soon as I had one, I couldn't stop. I got like the itch, the craving, the allergy, like what we all talk about it in our meetings. And then as soon as, I was on a gap year in Australia, so not bad excessively drinking then, but my drug use got back there. So ecstasy was massive out there. So we were taking a lot of ecstasy, and then a lot of come downs followed by alcohol out there. But again, I was 19, 20, so it was normal. Then as the years went on, I moved around a lot with my ex, but I was having a lot of sexuality issues as well. I'm an openly gay woman now, but at the time I was in the closet and I was with a guy that I didn't want to break his heart, so I would use and drink on that as well. I would move around a lot thinking, oh, if I move here, my problems are going to be answered, when really it wasn't. It was probably my addiction screaming at me, telling me I need to go off and do something. And so I moved around a lot. I moved to Brighton, drinking every single night, because the student nights there were like insane. And I was 21, acting like a student when I worked for American Express. And I'd have to go out partying all night, and then in the morning call Platinum and Centurion card holders and book them hundreds of thousands of pounds of travel every day.
That horrible fee.
Oh my God, I don't know how I did it. I had such a high role there, and I had to cater to American Express users, and they'll be like, I'm in Barbados, I need to fly here first class. My eyes wasn't even be open, I'd be steaming. What the hell? So and then after that I moved to Japan, because I just was applying for roles there because I've been there on holiday and I really wanted to go there. My alcohol use got really bad in Japan. Their drinking culture out there is huge. And I lived up a mountain in Fukushima, and the only thing to do up that mountain was drink. If we went off of it, we'd go to Tokyo, we'd drink. Everything was to do with drinking. And it was like sort of a little like uni dormitory we sort of lived in. Like, that's how I'd think life would be if you was in uni. I never went to uni. Getting drunk every night. But then I started to realise I had a problem, because I wanted to party every night, but no one else did after a couple of months. We lived the dream. We were living in Japan, but I wanted to just get fucked up and drunk and wasted and party, and everyone's like, no, I'm not doing that tonight, I need a week off. And I'll be like, what?
You just drink through it.
Literally, like, have another tinny, like, shut up. But then again, battling sexuality issues while I was there, so I was drinking a lot on that, and I was feeling quite lonely. Like we said, alcoholism leads you to feeling very lonely all the time. Come back, fast forward, I'm with my first girl relationship. I've moved to London, and London is the most loneliest, depressing city ever, I'd say. Like, I moved there thinking I got my big boy job, I'd worked in Mayfair, got my corporate role, everything I wished for. But oh my God, the drug use, the alcohol use out in that city, and the loneliness all together, I just couldn't believe it. I was 22 and I was just like, this is insane. Like, I thought life was going to get better, and it didn't. And like you, it led me to being on my own in my flat, taking drugs, drinking. I was with this girl and I loved her so much, and I was so nervous to be with her all the time because it was my first girl relationship. And she made a comment to me once, and I was absolutely wasted at dinner, and she was like, you seem so relaxed tonight. And it was because I was steaming, and that stuck within me. And every time I was with her or went on out on dates or whatever we did, I felt like I had to be drunk every time, because I was what you call a functioning alcoholic. I was never a blackout drinker. Anyway, fast forward on. I'm living in London. I'm using not most days, but every week. I'm drinking every day, and it's bottles of whiskey now. And fast forward, I move out of my exes, thinking I'll come home and life will get better and I'll be out of this depressing, boring city. And then summer hits and I move back to the island. Life just gets more crazier because I'm back with my friends, drinking, using drugs way more, because we live in a tiny little island, and like you know,
there ain't a lot here.
No, and it's easily accessible, and everyone's on it here. Everyone's got their own little lifestyles, but I seem to mix with the people that will always be on it. And then so fast forward the whole summer, drinking and using so much. I worked virtually, so I didn't have to get up for work. I could just work from a laptop. and still be on it all the time. And I thought my life was great. I was like, look at these losers, I can do this all the time. But I knew I had a problem though. Then I done the stupid decision to book a one-way flight to Bali. I didn't say it's a stupid decision, but I shouldn't have done it. I was mentally unwell, mentally ill, massive alcoholic. Like, I'd done it while I was drinking, and I think I was on cocaine at the time as well. Went out there for a 3-week holiday, stayed out there for 5 to 6 months. But the best thing about Bali, I was clean off drugs out there, but I was replacing it with alcohol because it's the death penalty out there if you take drugs in Bali. But I feel like I got it out of my system when I was there. I feel like God was like, you're not done yet. If you want to just chuck it all, do it all there, do all the drinking and stuff, and then come home and get clean again. It didn't work out that way. This is why I'm like, there's so many rock bottoms in all these milestones where I think the next thing I do is going to be okay. Come home thinking I'm going to get clean. I don't, get straight back on the drugs again. Fast forward to September of last year. There was just so many bad things that happened last year. Not that was visible to my friends and family, but I was drinking alone in my room, taking loads of drugs in my room, just come down after come down after come down, constantly thinking, what am I doing with my life? And then September come and I was actually in Lisbon because I ran off to Lisbon so many fucking times last year as well. I'm trying to fast forward really quick because I've got so many like travel bits in between. But yeah, I went to Lisbon a couple of times and just used to go out there and just get on loads of drugs because the drugs were easy and cheap out there, and the alcohol was really cheap out there because my money was starting to break away. And then basically September come and I'm done. Obviously that's exhausting me talking about that. And then September come, I text my mum when I was in Lisbon, like told her everything, told her what I've been doing, told her I've been using drugs in our home because I live with my mum, told her that I'm drinking every day, and she's like, well, we're going to get you help. She took me to a meeting 2 days later, and then now I'm here. So here we are. That's my story. We've really skimmed over our stories, I think.
We have. We can go in more depth. We just wanted to do an intro to us really on the first podcast. So you get an idea of where we come from, where we're at now, because it's a journey, isn't it?
Literally.
It's a journey. And when you first start getting sober, you want to get all this time behind you. You're like, oh, I can't wait to be a year sober. I can't wait to be 2 years. But it's like, trust the process, isn't it?
Yeah. And sobriety isn't smooth sailing. Like, no, it's not. It's so up and down, especially in your 20s. It's fucking hard.
It's really hard.
You're still an alcoholic your whole life. Yeah. Even though I'm going to be 60 and hopefully, I will be sober, I'm still going to class myself as an alcoholic, and I'm still going to attend meetings. Yeah. There's people in our meetings that have been going for 27 years, 43 years. You still have to keep working a program.
It's the medicine for our addiction, isn't it?
Literally.
That's the solution.
Literally. Yeah. But so we've skimmed over a lot, like we just said, of our journey, but we want to keep creating episodes about what led us here. Like, we do get asked a lot, how did you know you was an alcoholic? Obviously, you've just sort of said that little period, but there was so many rock bottoms and stuff we can still go into, but we still want to share more about sobriety today and the sobriety journey and stuff. So
because we want people to be able to relate as well. Like, the more that we share our stories, this is how we got sober, the more that we heard other people talk about it and the situations that they might have got themselves in or the poor decisions that they might have made, I sit there and I'm like, oh, I did that.
Literally.
I did that.
And you think at the start of your sobriety, you're going to think that you are the only person. I saw this saying, maverick. I was like, that's me. It means you don't think like anyone else. I'm going to walk into these rooms and I'm going to literally...
No one knows how bad it was for me.
I thought I was intelligent. I was like, I'm just drinking in the morning because life is hard. You're just stupid. Like, if you don't have a whiskey for breakfast, you're just dumb. Like literally, that's how I thought. And I was like, I'm a maverick. Like, that is me. I was going to get it tattooed on me. But really, no, you're just plain alcoholic.
Bog standard alcoholic.
Literally.
Yeah, once you have one, you can't stop. Yeah. And I think for me, this is going back into like talking about AA and how we do things. Like, if I didn't know, I didn't know what I suffered from. So I just thought I liked to party too much. Literally. And I was a bit of a knob and couldn't like just chill out with it. Like,
you are still a bit of a knob.
I am a little bit sometimes. Just not as much now. So yeah, like I felt like a really bad person because everyone else was like let's call it a night. I didn't want to call it a night.
Oh my God, if you told me that,
the anxiety of stopping.
Fuck no. And
we're gonna keep going.
Literally, I always made sure if people did call it a night, I had alcohol at home.
Yep.
I had drugs at home, and I'd have a party in my room.
Yeah.
Like that would be most nights of my drinking, because I'm quite lucky. My circle of friends don't take drugs. They do drink, but they don't take drugs. I was the only one with a few other people that would. But oh my God, that anxiety of the night ending. I would carry on
running out of drugs and drink.
Literally, I'll be on a Saturday night. Obviously, Friday and Saturday the nights out. But in my room, I would carry on my own until Monday morning. Yeah. Like that was my sesh.
Savage, isn't it?
Literally, I used to do it in London with other people, but then it just becomes a lonely place.
Yeah, it does. And do you know what the funny thing is as well? When I started to think, right, I'm going to get sober. I need to get sober. I thought, I'm going to have no friends. Yeah. What am I going to do? I'm going to have no friends. But I was sitting at home on my own doing it anyway.
Literally.
So,
because,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's insane, isn't it?
Yeah. Or you just think life's going to be boring. How the hell can I go out without having anything in my system? I was so much like that. I was like, I'm not going to go to the pub anymore. Like, I love going to the pub to my local and seeing all my friends. And it's like, how do you face difficult times as well without alcohol or drugs? Like, if my dog dies, I'm gonna drink on that. No. Do you know what I mean? You just,
the first thought, isn't it?
Yeah, because you want to numb the pain. Someone said this the other day. It's like your brain's wanting to make you better. That's the alcoholic side. They're like, have some of this, it will make you feel better. When you've got to train your brain to cope with life and not mask it. And that's what I did. Well, for the whole of my addiction years, I numbed myself. I wasn't there, I wasn't present. So when you go into sobriety, you're going to feel all these emotions and like anxiety again. I remember I was sat, there's like one stage of sobriety. My friend, he's sober as well. He's not working a program, but you get to 4 months and we was having these heart palpitations and we were like, what is it? And we thought maybe it's our body, like past trauma, PTSD coming up, even though our life was good, but we was having heart palpitations. So it's, your body's so weird, like how it's going to handle stuff in recovery.
Because like we're used to numbing it for so long, putting a drink on it or putting a drug on it, then they say when you come into recovery, you know, put the drink down and you're left with your emotions and your feelings, and you're like, well, what do I do with this? How do I cope with that?
Literally, I don't want to hear my thoughts.
You're like, I'm just gonna shush this brain up because it's so noisy right now. Like, from when I get up in the morning, I've got 25 songs playing. I've got about 30 different
TikTok sounds. Constantly going.
Damn it, TikTok. It's exhausting, isn't it?
But I keep having that Drake. Anita Max Ween.
Anita Max Ween.
Anita Max Ween. This is something that we'll have to just maybe quickly cover. We have undiagnosed, unmedicated ADHD, for sure. Like, and they say addiction stems from undiagnosed adult ADHD because we're constantly chasing dopamine. So we'll find addiction in everything, like eating. So when I quit alcohol, I wanted sugar. I wasn't a sugar gal. I was a savoury gal, but I wanted chocolate. I don't even like chocolate. And so that's another thing we can cover. It's like
whack-a-mole, the game whack-a-mole, where a mole pops up, you whack it down. Like, see you later, alcohol. Drugs. Literally. Get the drugs, sugar. Get the sugar, boys.
Red Bull.
Girls.
Yeah. I was thinking Red Bull girls. But it's so true. But a lot of people say, like, I used to say it all the time, I don't have addictive personality. I don't have I can't get my words out.
Addictive personality.
I don't have an addictive I fucking do. Anything. Like, because you constantly want to feel good about something. It's a dopamine chase. But that's something we can cover a lot in our episodes. Hopefully, you're sort of in the midst of getting a diagnostics, aren't you? You're on a waiting list.
I'm waiting. Very long, hard wait.
Everyone knows about the NHS. Obviously,
it's long. But hopefully, hopefully something will come about soon. And it's not because I want a label, it's because I want to understand what the heck is going on in my head.
Why do I hear 2,000 songs in the morning when I wake up and
because
can't switch off?
I ask some people if they do hear that, and some don't.
No. And do you know what ADHD medication does? Turns it all off. But then that scares me. I'm like, come back.
I need the chaos. It's a journey, but you're now on the journey with us because we've got lots to share, haven't we? Literally. This is just the beginning, but we wanted to put the first episode out there, and you know, just share a bit about us. And if it can help one person, it can help one person.
Literally. And we want to put out there, like, our DMs are open. I've had so many people in my DMs on TikTok from them TikToks that I've made. And social media
socials on here too.
And we're making social media accounts for TikTok, Instagram, everything else as well. But we'll put helplines at the bottom as well. Like, there are helplines for AA and
if you
stuff
do
like that.
feel like you've got a problem or you're struggling or you have questions, then just send us a message and we will do our best to point you in the right direction. We are not professionals. We're not medical professionals.
Nope.
We're not doctors. We're
not even smart.
No, we're not even smart. We're just girls.
I'm
just a
girl.
We're just girls out here trying to do good. So
but I think as well, this was something as well that we both wanted to spread, was you don't need to get to how bad we were.
You don't need a rock bottom to
go into a meeting or to get help. Like, if I realised my drinking habits, I knew I had a problem. I couldn't be asked to get help.
Or even if you haven't got a problem, and you just don't like alcohol, you don't like how it makes you feel, and you just don't want to be part of that culture, join us.
Or listen to us and listen to how horrible we were.
It'll put you off.
Literally. So I think the best thing to come out of this would be to stop people from getting to their rock bottom. And especially people like, I'm 26, Emily's 30. So, and Emily's a mum.
I am a mumsy.
She's church girl, newborn Christian. I'm just me.
This is just Katie.
I'm just a 26-year-old girl, just trying to live a life.
No, but it's good. We wanted to be able to give two different perspectives on recovery, and you know,
and we do, even though we're very similar, but we have got two different lives. So
completely.
So hopefully people get a lot out of this. So like and subscribe. Hit that like button.
Like and subscribe.
And a big thank you to, like we said at the start, Matt Jeffrey for letting us use the studio.
Thanks, Matt.
And Tunde. We're actually in a church building right now.
We are.
Sorry, God, for the swearing. I just realised you can't swear in a holy
She'll repent, don't worry.
Building. And we're going to try and get these out weekly.
Yes.
Hopefully with my editing skills goes well.
100%. You got this.
And we maybe if you've got questions, we'll do the next thing of maybe we'll answer the questions on the podcast, or just obviously anonymously.
Put comments on the videos as well.
Or stuff you want to hear from us of things we haven't covered today.
We can do a Q&A as well, like what questions you've got. We can do a pod where we answer them.
Literally.
So
coolios.
Thank you so much for listening and watching. If you got this far, we obviously weren't that boring, which is good. So
we were really nervous, but
we were really nervous.
I think the first episode's always the hardest. Because you need to get out your whole story. I felt like I just jabbered on there, really.
No, honestly, I was fully engrossed.
Okay,
and
same
I've heard
to you.
It all before.
Same
I was
to you.
fully engrossed.
Yeah, cool. We did well.
We did.
So now going on, we can have subjects for each episode and stuff like that. So
for sure. But guys, thank you so much. We're gonna put on the end of the video helplines and thank yous as well. So and
reach out if you're struggling.
If you need help, like
it's the first step.
There is help out there. You've got this. We love you.
Love you.
Bye.
No, do that.
Oh
no. Oh my God, you're so millennial. Jen,
what is that? Love you.
Thank you. Bye.